Hello. Today I have a new novel to talk about, A Better Life by Lionel Shriver. So this is, as I said, new from the library, February 2026. Anyway, I've been a reader of Lionel Shriver's books for a few years now, and I like many of them. The one I like best is "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" Should we stay or should we go? About two people who are married and vow at their 80th birthday that they will pull the plug together. And then we go up to that point in the novel and find out what happens, various scenarios of what could happen when they're 80, and try to decide on doing that or not. So I like that one quite a bit. And I just recently read We Need to Talk About Kevin, which was the big hit novel. So Lionel Shriver has a sort of a political bent, and she's been getting a little bit more right wing lately. She spends some time in Europe somewhere. I think she lives in Portugal and in Brooklyn. So this novel is actually set in Brooklyn and has to do with immigration. And it's set in Ditmas Park, which is a place that New Yorkers know in Brooklyn. And the description of Ditmas Park and the house is interesting here in the page 10 of the book. Cheek or jowl, Brooklyn brownstone, but freestanding Queen Anne built in 1905, a stately structure set on a generously back from the street on a corner lot of the ground, bushy with hydrangeas and rhododendrons, complete with goofy fairy tale turrets, dormer windows, and columned wraparound porch that cried for craft beers and Scrabble boards. The porch was largely lost on them by the time it was warm enough to laze and swing on or bounce in the springy chairs with green and white striped all-weather cushions. The mosquitoes were unbearable. So anyway, that's a picture of the house, and I don't know what the situation with the mosquitoes. I've never found mosquitoes really an issue in New York at all, anywhere ever. So I don't know. That's not really true. So I walked around Ditmas Park. I was going to go there and make a video, this video, about the book, but I don't feel like riding 45 minutes to go there. And, it not going to add that much to the picture, but I have some photos of the houses in Ditmas, and the one that I'm showing now is quite a bit like the house is what I picture the house in the book to be. So that's how we take off on the book, and so that was intriguing, and I like that part to read about this house and this neighborhood. It's always been intriguing to me, with a couple blocks of really nice big houses like that. So what the book has to do with is it has to do with an imagined program. This is last year's issue. This book. It has to do with immigration, massive immigration. And it has to do with a program in New York City that imaginary programmers, she says in the beginning, is something they thought about doing. Anyway, it was about giving homeowners a certain amount of money a month to house immigrants in their homes. So this is where the takeoff of this story is, in that the woman Gloria, the mother of the house, divorced mother with 3 children. Nico, young man, is 25 whatever years old, and is still living at home. He's like practically incel. He's kind of the right winger of the family, while the while his sisters and the mother are all libs, and they're the ones that want to bring in this immigrant to live in the house because they have this, it's this enormous house. So they get this Honduran woman through this program. Martine is her name, and she moves in. She's a lovely young woman in her 20s, and Nico's a little attracted to her right off, and she's kind of sexy, sexy Latina. It's a lot of stereotypes in this book. I mean, it's this is not my favorite Lionel Shriver book, and I think her political point of views colored it and made it like worse than it could have been. And she seems to be when you buy your political opinions, do you take all from column A or all from column B, all from column left or all from column right, and take the whole package? Or do you select certain things that you see are true or valid and reject the rest? Well, I tend to be the one that pick and choose, where it seems like Shriver is taking the whole package. So she's, and I'm saying that, the issue is old because it's about this mass immigration, which was, a big issue a few years ago, and then Trump came in, and it helped reelect Trump. So why would right-wingers be complaining about it now? They got what they wanted. They got their Trump again, and they got their ice on the street, running around and killing people and whatever they're doing. So anyway, that kind of is the atmosphere of the book, and it's a good read. I enjoyed reading the book. Her novel. She's a good creative novelist and a good writer, and so the book clips right along and is an interesting story and all that, and it's sort of comic most of the time, and then it goes through really a dark turn toward the end. But it never feels like serious, really. So it ends up the whole thing gets out of hand, and there ends up being a whole bunch of Honduran people living in the house, and it's a big tragedy. So at one point, talking about the inconsistency or buying the whole package of right-wing stuff, there's at one point, she comments on May 7th, and on October 7th, and what happened in Palestine on that day, and so she doesn't get that when she's going to be talking about an immigration novel, and then she brings up the Palestinian issue, which is what is the issue with Israel and Palestine? Well, it's about violent, massive immigration that came to Palestine. No blame on the people of Palestine at all. They didn't do anything. They didn't cause the Holocaust or anything like that. So it's about that struggle is these people that came and immigrants from Europe, wherever, came and moved into Palestine and said, oh yeah, God gave this land, but she doesn't see the comparison here in that's basically the same thing. So there's this guy Domingo who moves in. He ends up being the husband of Martine. Nevertheless, a few days after Domingo graced them with his enchanting presence, both women's initial horror when news broke about terrorists rampaging through southern Israel seemed both genuine and spontaneous. Something like 1,200 people were murdered, among them a bunch of young people blissed out on E at a music festival, geezers, biddies, and little kids, while over 250 Israelis were abducted. The Palestinians, how would you say, violations of social norms, including beheadings, plain old rapes, along with more inventive penetrations with blunt objects and knives, eviscerations, amateur cesareans, and throat cuttings, throat sitting of babies. It was as if Hamas guys had gone around beforehand and said, okay, what's the most animalistic, universal, repulsive stuff that we could do that should alienate the sympathies of the entire world? Well, that's because the Israelis made up all those things that Hamas allegedly did. At least that's what I think on October 7th, and I think they let them through. They brag about their security and this wall they had and all the monitors and everything and the cameras, yet this breach was so easy and all these people were killed and all this raping and all this stuff was going on. And it's just complete lies to me, and I think it was a false flag, and I think it was intentional, and I think they did it to themselves so they could go ahead and kill all the rest of the Palestinians. So, that's the inconsistency of this book, in that she goes on about that, like, oh, geez, we're supposed to be sympathetic to the Israelis while we're not supposed, while we're supposed to be against these liberals who are trying to help these people who moved from Honduras. And Honduras is a part of the USA, basically. I mean, all these Monroe Doctrine countries below the border have been screwed with by the United States for so many years, and it's like. Hondurans, as if it's like, as if they're in the book, it's like they're just like, just sort of like opportunistic animals, really. And they're not people who have been fucked with for years and years with their own, by the United States, by the United Fruit Company, all those things for 100 years, over 100 years. And yet, with coups going on and all this stuff that goes on in Central America and South America, and yet these people are to blame because they want to come to the United States for a better life. So anyway, I found real inconsistency in all that, and by the time I read the Palestinian part there that I just read to you, I was like, okay, whatever. So anyway, I read on the book, and it's a pretty good story, and if you kind of, it's a right-wing horror story, basically, is what it is. And so, whatever. And I don't know if I'll read Lionel Shriver's next book. I'm hoping for something better, but this was not so great. And but I ended up giving it 3-4 stars on Goodreads, maybe 4, because it was well written. So I like her books. But not so much this one, and I think she's getting more and more right-wing, and I think she should look into that, okay? Thanks for watching.